So temperate cyclone is a low pressure system which is a means of transferring energy from the low latitude to high latitude. There are two different viewpoints about how exactly these temperate cyclones are developed. The first viewpoint is known as polar front theory. According to the polar front theory, whenever the two air mass having a different characteristics when they come in contact with each other, then the front is formed. For example, you can understand this here. This is the equator. This is subtropical high pressure belt, and this is the polar low pressure belt. Polar low pressure. So this is the place where exactly this temperate cyclones are formed when the air, that is warm air from subtropical high pressure belt, when warm air collide with the cold air coming from the polar areas, because these two air mass has a different characteristics, that's why they cannot get mixed with each other. That is the reason why the front is formed between these two different air mass. So when these two different air mass when they converge, then the front is formed. So this is here, this side you have a warm air mass and this side you have a cold air mass. So when these two different air mass having a different characteristics, when they collide with each other, then they cannot mix with each other. That's why the front is formed. After some period of time, this front actually becomes wavy. It becomes wavy like this becomes like this. So this side you have a warm air, this side you have a cold air. So that's how this front becomes wavy according to the polar front theory. And later on with the time, this wave keep on getting accentuated. This wave keep on getting accentuated like this. So this side you have a warm air mass, this side you have a cold air mass. So that's how with the time this wave keep on getting accentuated, and after some period of time this wave, this becomes like this. So this side you have warm air mass, this side you have a cold air mass, and this warm air is rising over the cold air mass. So this front is called as warm front, because at this front, this whole front get divided into two types of front. This front, this side, it is known as warm front because warm air is rising over the cold air. On this side, this cold air actually subside beneath the warm air, because this is the warm sector. So this cold air actually subside beneath the warm air. So this front is known as cold front. So that's how this whole front get divided into two front, warm front and cold front. And later on, after some period of time, this front actually get occluded. Both the front, warm front and the cold front get occluded, and this warm air that was actually lying between these two front, it get uplifted. So ultimately this front will get occluded in this manner, and the warm air will rise upward. If you see all these things in a profile, this is a plan view, but if you see in this all these things in a profile view, then it will look like this. You have this side, you have this is a cold air, and this side you have again you have a cold air this side, and this is a warm sector. Here you have a warm sector. So on this cold front, this cold air is subsiding beneath the warm air, and on this warm front, the warm air is rising above this cold air. And finally, when this occlusion takes place, then this warm air start rising, and that's how it will lead to the formation of low pressure system. So this is according to the polar front theory. The whole this polar front theory says that whenever the two air mass having a different characteristics, when they collide with each other, then the front is formed. With the time, this front becomes wavy, and ultimately this wave get accentuated, and finally these two front get occluded, and the air that was lying between these two front actually get uplifted, and that's how the low pressure system is formed. So that is what the first view with respect to how exactly the temperate cyclones are formed. But there are a lot of problems in this theory. The first problem in this theory is that it doesn't talk about what actually happens to the air that has got uplifted, because unless this is here, you have a on the surface these different air mass converge, and when the air rises upward, then the low pressure is formed. But unless this air is diverged in the upper atmosphere, there is no way that the low pressure can continue for a long period of time, because this low pressure will be actually will not be able to sustain for a long period of time unless there is a divergence in the upper atmosphere. So this theory actually basically doesn't talk about what exactly happened to the air that has got uplifted. The second problem with this theory is that when this theory was proposed, at that point of time, not much was known about the upper atmosphere. So that's why this theory has not been able to explain actually the phenomena that is taking place in the upper atmosphere. Then the third problem with this theory is that it does not talk about the fact that why actually this front becomes wavy. So this theory is not able to explain why this actually front becomes wavy. So that was the reason why the new theory, later on when the people came to know about the upper atmosphere, the phenomena taking place in upper atmosphere, when people gathered more knowledge about the upper atmosphere, then the new theory was proposed, that is known as jet theory. According to this theory, whenever the jet subside, it creates high pressure on the ground, and whenever it get uplifted, then it creates low pressure on the surface. So that is the new theory that has been proposed. The another problem that was there in the polar front theory was that this theory actually talks about the fact that when the two different air mass will converge, and when this air mass will converge, then front will be formed, and once the front is formed, then this front will become wavy, and ultimately both the front will get occluded, and the air that was lying between these fronts will get uplifted. So basically this theory actually talks about that the convergence takes place, and then only low pressure is formed, as we have already seen in this theory, that this theory says that the two different air mass will converge, and then low pressure system, that is the temperate cyclone, will be formed. But this never ever happens in the atmosphere, because in the atmosphere first the low pressure is formed, and then only the convergence takes place. So this theory basically talks about the opposite thing. That's why when the jet theory was proposed, this jet theory says that whenever the jet will actually subside, it will create high pressure on the ground, and when this jet will get uplifted, then it will lead to the formation of low pressure system. So this theory says that once the low pressure system is formed, then only the convergence on the ground will start taking place.